Every villain confirmed and rumored for Spider-Man, Far From Home. Spider-Man, Far From Home is introducing several villains into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some of whom have never appeared on the big screen before. They range from major characters such as Mysterio to MCU incarnations of Iron Man and the Molten Man. Marvel is still attempting to keep the post-Avengers Endgame movies under wraps, with plans to officially announce the MCU's Phase 4 movies after Spider-Man, Far From Home's release. After Endgame was released and the spoiler ban was lifted, Far From Home's trailers went all out with reveals of how the big battle against Thanos will impact Peter Parker's next adventure. Peter is still reeling from the death of Iron Man, and the snap of the Infinity Gauntlet has opened a gateway to the multiverse through which Mysterio and the Elementals arrive. The movie begins with Peter and his friends going on a school trip to several different countries in Europe, only to find his vacation hijacked by Nick Fury, who wants to recruit him for the battle against the Elementals. There have been a lot of rumors and speculation about which villains will appear in Spider-Man, Far From Home, and several of the rumors have since been debunked. With that being said, let's take a look through the bad guys associated with Spider-Man, Far From Home. Mysterio. The first reports from Spider-Man, Far From Home revealed that Jake Gyllenhaal was in talks to play Mysterio, who was presented as the film's main villain. For a long time, it was never confirmed if Gyllenhaal was, indeed, in the movie and if he was playing Mysterio. Marvel and Sony opted to keep his involvement secret throughout production and only recently confirmed his role, which was fully revealed in the Spider-Man, Far From Home trailer. Gyllenhaal being the main villain in Spider-Man, Far From Home is suitably ironic given the actor was once nearly cast as Spider-Man. He was considered as a replacement for Tobey Maguire in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Mysterio is a classic Spider-Man villain, a special effects whiz who dreamed of making it big in Hollywood. Always hungering for more, Quentin Beck decided that would only come if he successfully defeated one of the costumed superheroes whose exploits were always in the papers. He suited up as Mysterio, and has become one of Spider-Man's most enduring foes, a master of illusion who has even simulated alien invasions on occasion. It would certainly be appropriate for Mysterio to finally show up in a Spider-Man film. He was one of the villains Raimi intended to introduce in his plans for Spider-Man 4, along with the Vulture. Iron Man. Early on in production, Tom Holland shared a behind-the-scenes look at Spider-Man, Far From Home's Venice set, while, in the background, his stunt double was struck down by a giant wave. There had long been rumors that Marvel planned to introduce Iron Man, Spider-Man's most prominent water-based opponent, and it turns out the rumors were true. The aforementioned wave was shown in the first Spider-Man, Far From Home trailer, and producer Eric Carroll confirmed the Elemental is based on Iron Man during Screen Rant's visit to the movie set. In the comics, Morris Bench was a crewman on a U.S. cargo ship, was accidentally knocked into the sea by Spider-Man. The wall crawler was battling Namor at the time. Unfortunately for Bench, his vessel was testing a powerful experimental generator, and his body was transformed into a form of living water. Iron Man has been a constant thorn in the web slinger's hide ever since, blaming Spider-Man for his fate, and he's even been a member of the Green Goblin's Sinister 12. Molten Man. There had also been hints that a lesser-known Spider-Man villain known as the Molten Man would appear in Spider-Man, Far From Home. According to one report, a set of Lego figures being produced for the film features Molten Man, which definitely hinted that he may have some sort of presence. Molten Man's involvement in Spider-Man, Far From Home was also confirmed in the movie's first teaser trailer, along with his identity being revealed thanks to another Easter egg. Carroll also confirmed that the fire elemental is based on Molten Man during our set visit. In the comics, Molten Man's alter ego was Mark Raxton, a New York-born scientist who was accidentally exposed to alien radiation. His body was transformed into molten rock, and he gained the ability to project radiation and generate heat. And while Molten Man is essentially a Z-list Spider-Man villain, he's actually the step-brother of Liz Allen. There's no reason to assume this relationship will be maintained in the MCU, since Far From Home's Molten Man is only inspired by the comic book version, rather than being an exact adaptation, and Liz Allen won't be in the movie. Sandman. While the Sandman was never rumored for Spider-Man, Far From Home, he was another one of the elemental villains confirmed for the film after appearing in the first trailer. The interesting thing about Sandman, though, is that he's already appeared on the big screen before. Sandman was played by Thomas Hayden Church in Raimi's Spider-Man 3. This makes the villain the first one to be reused by Marvel Studios in the MCU. In the comics, William Baker, who went by numerous aliases, was a criminal who had transformed into a sand-based shapeshifter after coming into contact with irradiated sand at a nuclear test site, and his powers aided him in his fights with both Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. Although Sandman ultimately turned good and eventually joined the Avengers, his role in Spider-Man: Far From Home will presumably be different, that is, if he's even in control of his actions. Chameleon. In 2018, it was reported that Newman Akar had joined the cast of Spider-Man: Far From Home as a character named Dmitry. Comic book readers immediately suggested that he could be playing Dmitry Smerdyakov, better known as the Chameleon. Another classic Spider-Man foe, the Chameleon is a master of disguise who uses his skills for international espionage. He's crossed paths with Spider-Man many times, and on occasion has even kidnapped and replaced Peter Parker. Fortunately for the wall crawler, he never realized Peter's secret identity. So far, the evidence for the Chameleon's involvement in Spider-Man: Far From Home is pretty slim, going no further than Akar's character name. He would, however, potentially be a thematic fit. Spider-Man: Far From Home includes Nick Fury, Marvel's premier super spy, and he and the Chameleon have clashed many times. When we spoke to director John Watts about Akar's role in the movie, he revealed that Dmitry actually works for Nick Fury, but didn't rule out the possibility of him also being the Chameleon. I think anyone who works for Nick Fury, they certainly have a mysterious past, Watts teased. We're not specifically saying that he's ... but we're not saying. Vulture. Michael Keaton's Vulture was the highlight of Spider-Man: Homecoming, a blue-collar worker who fell into a life of crime because he believed the world had turned against him. The relationship between Spider-Man and the Vulture is a fascinating one. Vulture knows the web slinger's secret identity, but he also respects Peter for saving his daughter's life. There were reports that Keaton would be reprising the role in Spider-Man: Far From Home, but these rumors were shot down by director John Watts, who said plainly that Keaton is not in the movie. The Scorpion. Spider-Man: Homecoming introduced Michael Mondo as the Scorpion, drawing inspiration from the Ultimate Universe version of the character rather than from the classic comic book version. In the Ultimate Universe, Maximus Gargan was a violent and brutal mob boss who sought to establish himself as a kingpin of crime. He fell foul of Miles Morales' Spider-Man, and soon wound up in jail. Spider-Man: Homecoming's post-credits scene saw Scorpion attempt to get Vulture to reveal Spider-Man's secret identity. It was clear Gargan hoped to get his revenge on Spider-Man. Although the Vulture refused to give up Peter's secret identity, most viewers assumed this teased that the Scorpion would return as a Spider-Man opponent. However, during Screen Rant's visit to the set of Spider-Man: Far From Home, producer Eric Carroll squashed any hope of seeing Scorpion, saying, "He is not in this movie. Nor is Michael Mondo playing him. Sorry, Mac, your prison sentence isn't up yet." The Prowler. One of the most interesting background characters in Spider-Man: Homecoming was Aaron Davis, played by Donald Glover. In the comics, Davis acquires advanced technology in order to become a sneak thief known as the Prowler. He's particularly important given that he's the uncle of Miles Morales, aka the Ultimate Spider-Man. Homecoming even included a smart Easter egg that established Miles as part of the MCU. Unfortunately for Glover fans, it was confirmed during our set visit that neither Aaron Davis nor his villain alter ego will be in Spider-Man: Far From Home. The Tinkerer. Michael Chernus played the Tinkerer in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and his character is still out there, potentially serving as a source of advanced technology for the film's villains. The Tinkerer even has ties to Mysterio in the comics. On one occasion he helped Quentin Beck fake an entire alien invasion. However, there's no evidence to suggest that the Tinkerer will be in Spider-Man: Far From Home. Shocker. Played by Bokeem Woodbine, Herman Schultz inherited the Shocker gauntlets over the course of Spider-Man: Homecoming. He even managed to get the drop on Spider-Man in one notable scene. Since the Vulture won't be appearing in Spider-Man: Far From Home, and Spider-Man is on a completely different continent, it's safe to assume that Shocker won't be in the sequel. Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment below.